Now, your hosts, Vicki Hyman and Erin Medley.
Hello and welcome to the show formerly known as TV Hangover.
Are we allowed to say we were formerly known as TV Hangover?
Yes.
R.I.P. Prince.
R.I.P. It's Vicki and Erin here. We are now called Vicki.
Because it was my idea.
It was your idea.
Remote Possibilities.
That's the name, people. Remote Possibilities. Our new podcast name. We changed it for reasons we don't need to go into right now.
No.
But we think Remote Possibilities is a much better name anyway.
It is.
So we're very excited about that.
And it does not promote irresponsible drinking while watching television.
It does not, although we promote irresponsible drinking while watching television. You can now tweet us at Remote Podcast. That's REMOTE podcast. Easy to remember.
Very easy.
Also at E_meds and at Vicki High, VICKIHY. And you may have heard a third voice. That's Bobby Olivier.
Hello.
Bobby's been on our podcast multiple times.
Yes, he has, and he's here to talk about Walking Dead later because he has many feelings about the Walking Dead premiere, as do I.
I think we all do.
Okay.
Bobby tweeted me the night the show, the season premiere aired, and it's like, I need to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right.
I have a feeling that we all have the same feelings about The Walking Dead.
Well, Bobby and I did have a conversation about this yesterday.
Okay.
So,
Are
or
you in
Monday
agreement?
or whatever day that was.
Yeah, but Vicki hasn't been here. So
Vicki hasn't been here.
We have a chance for organic conversation.
Yes.
Vicki's back from her high holidays.
Yes.
And
Over!
thank goodness, because I needed to talk to you about many things,
Yes.
But you have been out. So let's get into some TV news. Speaking of The Walking Dead, the Season 7 premiere scored some of the best ratings ever for the AMC series. 17 million viewers.
That is crazy high.
That is crazy. That's up 16% from last year's season premiere, which was 14.6 million. And on par with the season 5 season premiere, which was 17.3, and that was the most watched episode ever. What happened in the season 5 premiere? You know I binged, so I can't really...
It's all a bloody
I
blur.
can't.
Right?
The problem with The Walking Dead is because they do it in two different
I never know what's
I don't know what's
mid-season premiere, and
Yeah,
Very confusing.
it's hard to remember. In the 18 to 49 demo, the episode averaged an 8.4 rating, which is 10.7 million viewers. So advertisers are thrilled. And that is something that we will talk about later because I have a problem. I have a bone to pick with the ads during this show. In some other news, Vicki, you will be so sad to hear this.
What?
ABC's Notorious has had its 13-episode order trimmed to 10
episodes.
episodes.
That was the show that I picked to be the first canceled.
It was. Now, this news that we're getting here is from the synopsis email, and the way they write it is very amusing, I think. The series will remain on the air, and the network plans to air all 10 produced episodes. But the drama's soft ratings start does not bode well for the freshman show, and I think that means...
the first? That's the first show that had its order cut, right?
I believe so. I don't recall hearing of any other shows. Bobby, you're watching Notorious, right?
Do you know what Notorious is?
Barely.
He's never heard of
It's
this
not
show.
good.
It's look, I watch it, but that's because
Why?
because it falls
Why
into
do you
the
waste your time?
because it falls
be
into
knitting.
the Thursday.
You could be picking lint out of your belly button. Oh my god!
I could actually be watching Project Runway because it comes on at the same time.
Is Notorious the one with the girl from Coyote Ugly?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hyper
okay.
Parabellum.
Yeah.
Yes, or as I like to say, Covert Affairs on USA, which I thought was a decent show.
Or I like to say cheaper
fair
by
enough.
the dozen.
I'm not going to say. I mean, I'm
So
not
random.
saying that there are terrible people in this show. It's just a terrible show. It's a terrible show.
It's not as bad as some other shows.
Like what?
It's not as bad as season 1 Secrets and Lies.
Okay, but we're talking about this season.
Okay, fine. Then it is not a good show. Here's some other news that I thought was interesting for all of you TV viewers out there. AT&T just announced that it is starting a streaming TV package called DirecTV Now. So you know AT&T and DirecTV are the same company. And this package will offer more than 100 channels for only $35 a month. So they're trying to appeal to the cord cutters, of which, Bobby, are you a cord cutter?
Not yet, but that and the PlayStation Vue thing, which is a similar kind of package, is starting to make me think about it.
Yeah, the PlayStation Vue, they charge $54.99 a month for about 100 channels. And its lowest package gives you 60 channels for $39.99 a month. Now, I'm a DirecTV customer and an AT&T customer.
Not to brag.
No, well, you know.
Things are pretty good here at NJ.
Oh, yeah.
I've been thinking about cutting the cord, but I don't know if I can do it.
Well, what would you not get if you cut the cord?
Well, for me, it's the live TV that's a problem. Like, I like to be able to just turn on the TV and, like, whatever is on is on. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have to, like, navigate to an app and then, I don't know. It just seems like so much work.
Yeah, and, like, for me, like, for live sports, but there might be a thing for that. But then, like, for, like, the Grammys or things like that.
Right.
Like, I feel like for nature of what we do, it's going to be really hard to cut the cord.
Now, they are talking about having live channels in this package, so I guess it would just depend on what those live channels are. And also AT&T and Time Warner, or AT&T announced that it was going to acquire Time Warner, and Time Warner owns HBO, so then all of that would be a part of this. I don't know. It sounds. When my cable bill is like $130,
you could buy HBO a la carte of just HBO you're interested in.
That's true, but it's expensive.
It's like, what, $11 a month or something?
Like I said.
Okay, well, that's how much I pay anyway.
For one channel. I mean, when Netflix is that much.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I pay like $130-something a month for cable. $35 sounds nice. Right?
I guess so. I mean, I'm old and I'm set in my ways. I mean, I might as well have an AOL account. That's how old I am.
I don't have an AOL account.
I don't. Okay. So, I mean, it's just one of those things I don't even pay attention to. It's like I pay $130 a month, but it's all there. And, you know, I still have my TiVo, so I'm still paying for TiVo service in addition to all that.
Oh, because when you got your TiVo. But when you got your TiVo, you didn't do that, like, forever plan where you paid
I did, and
one.
I should have.
Yeah.
I do love my TV. They're like, why? And I'm like, I just love my TiVo. It's got the best interface.
So you get cable from your cable provider, and then you have a TiVo. You don't have the DVR from your cable provider.
No, I don't. And I had it for a year when I was living in an apartment in between houses, and I couldn't, you know, for whatever reason, I couldn't get a landline, so it was weird. So I had, and I didn't like it. I mean, I know things have changed in the last 3 years, but didn't like the interface. I thought it was very cumbersome, and I love my TiVo.
You just like that bloop, bloop. That's
people
what you like.
Who have TiVo love their TiVo.
I like TiVo. I've never had one, but I have used one. Like before DVRs were a thing, and TiVo was the only thing around. I used a TiVo, and I thought it was cool. Well, we'll see how many people switch over and cut the cord. Let's move on to some other news for you old head CW fans. Gilmore Girls. We all know that's coming out on Netflix next week.
Thanksgiving.
A few weeks. It's the year in the life of the Gilmores. I believe it's split into four
mini movies, 90 minutes each.
And they released a trailer finally this week.
Yesterday, I think.
Yeah, Tuesday, yeah. Vicki, you were a Gilmore Girls fan after
I was a post Gilmore Girls fan. It was one of it was like maybe the fourth or fifth show that I binged on in my life.
And you watch every season?
I watched every season.
Wow.
Even when it got really, really bad in the last season when the creator left in such a let's set this whole place on fire kind of way.
But she's back for the movie. Amy
back.
Sherman-Palladino.
Yes.
So what did you think of the trailer?
You know, I was excited when I saw all these old faces. I got all these warm and fuzzies, even for characters I did not give a crap about. Like, I was not a Dean person. Quite frankly, I was not a fan of any of Rory's boyfriends.
Wait, is Dean Milo Ventimiglia?
No, that's, I can't remember his name.
Jesse.
That's Jess.
Clearly, I didn't
Dean is
watch
the guy
show.
from Supernatural, Jared Padalecki.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I hated Logan. But anyway, so it was...
Logan is from Good Wife.
Yes.
Okay.
Matt, whose last name I can never pronounce.
Cruzy? No, it's...
Cruzzy?
No, it's damn it.
Yeah, anyway. So I got the warm and fuzzies and seeing everybody again. There is some sort of plot development because as we all know, Edward Herman, who played the father, died in real life. And so this takes place in the aftermath of his death. And I can't say I'm enjoying watching Emily move on, but I think that's an interesting thing. Seeing them grapple with his death, I think is very interesting. The one thing I'm concerned about is that it seemed like they were redoing a lot of plot lines from the last couple of seasons I didn't really enjoy so much, which is that, you know, are Luke and Lorelai having problems again? And quite frankly, in the show, when they finally got together, then Luke found out he had sired a daughter, and he was overly, he was like very into like becoming a father to his daughter and couldn't deal with Lorelai, and they ended up breaking up, and it was just ridiculous.
Spoiler alert!
Oh, come on! This is a show that's 9 years old.
Bobby hasn't watched.
Sorry.
Anyway, have a few questions. Can I ask a few questions?
Yes, please.
One, is Luke the guy with the backwards hat?
Yes.
Okay.
He's wearing the same exact flannel shirt. Same exact hat. Does not change.
Okay. Two is Melissa McCarthy was on that show. Wasn't
Yes,
she?
and she does a very short, like,
she looks
day
really
long.
thin.
She does look thin. She does like a day. She shot like a sort of a cameo. I don't think she's a very large part of it.
Last question: will they still be talking in
Yes.
the way that's endless puns
Yes.
and wit?
Yes.
Which is
And
why
no one talks like that.
Thank you, Bobby. Bobby just hit.
They don't talk like that on the West Wing either, but
head.
you're okay with that probably.
But
Don't assume
Look.
things about my thoughts about
I
West
agree.
Wing.
I'm with Bobby. I tried to watch the Gilmore Girls when I heard they were coming back with these movies. I was like, all right, well, I can binge it. I have Netflix now. And
Doing well.
and I tried, and I could not get past the first episode. I was just
So
like,
this
what is
not
happening?
for you.
It
I
is
mean,
not
it's
for
it's
me.
the style of the show.
No, I
It's
like
it's
it.
hyper stylized in that sense.
Very.
But I really enjoyed it. And also Rory, it's 9 years since she left, which means she's 30 now, and she's still sort of like, at odds, unemployed. I was actually very happy to find out she was unemployed because
We assume she's unemployed.
yeah, we think that she's
From the trailer.
unemployed.
Yeah.
She was trained to be a journalist, and
I know in that good looking Yale newsroom,
yes,
college newsroom.
yes.
Again, a thing that doesn't exist.
Well,
Yes.
Yeah.
My problem with the character of Rory is that everybody was in love with her. She could do no wrong and everything good happened to her. She did work very hard for it, but she was just really annoying to me. And at the end, she didn't get like the fellowship that she really liked. So instead, she gets to get hired by, I think, BuzzFeed or whatever it was back then to cover Obama on the campaign trail. So everything works out for Rory. So now she's
Jealous.
unemployed and at odds again, and at a loss again. So I'm sure everything's going to work out great for her again, which will annoy me. But it just seems like they're
Vicky
going
hates
over.
to see people succeed.
That's not true.
Especially other journalists.
That's true.
We should watch out. As she points at me.
That is true.
Bobby, you're going down.
It was. I'm a little concerned about that, but I got the warm and fuzzies. I have to admit.
So
I'm
you're
happy
excited
to go back
about
to
this.
Stars Hollow. Yes.
Are you going to watch like the day it comes out?
It's like either Thanksgiving Day or the day after, possibly. Quite frankly, yeah, probably.
2 hours?
90 minutes each.
90 minutes each. And so the next one, they're doing it based on seasons, right?
Yes.
So the next one will be in the spring or winter. Wait.
I guess so. I mean, actually, I was a little confused as to whether they were dropping them all at once or they're doing one at a time
I
by
think
the
they're
seasons.
doing one at a time by the season.
Then I'll probably watch it on Friday when I'm not going out for Black Friday shopping because I do not do that.
I do that. I think it's fun. I don't buy anything, but I do like to go out with the crazies.
Yeah, I share a similar crazy streak.
Right?
Yeah, where I might buy a couple cheap DVDs.
Right.
Yeah.
But like you're not going out to get, big ticket items like all the other people are. You just
Correct.
like to be amongst the craziness. Like I'm totally with you, Bobby.
Why
true,
would you
yeah.
do that? And like,
It's fun.
But why would you wait on those lines?
You don't wait in the
Well, you said
line.
you bought a couple of DVDs. You have to wait online.
No, because I don't go out early in the morning. Like I go out like a little bit after the wave has already crashed.
Also, I will say I have waited in some lines, but the lines are usually to get into the store. There's
Yeah.
not a line to like check out.
Yeah, because they're so overstaffed.
Never,
Correct.
ever go anywhere near any of those
You're missing out.
places. No,
There's something about it.
I always make sure I take the day after Thanksgiving off because I don't want to cover that store. I don't want to be out there.
I take the day after Thanksgiving off so I can get up at 6 a.m. and go to the store and not buy anything. Just be with my people. All right, fine.
Crazy people.
Okay, so that's enough stalling, guys.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about the season 7 premiere of The Walking Dead. We all have our different experiences with the show. You guys watched in real time from the beginning,
Yes.
Yeah.
and I binged this year. So, Vicki, you're the only person that Bobby and I haven't heard from. We've talked to each other. What were your thoughts? Just flat out episode overall.
Torture porn. Misery porn. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I'm like, and I'm sorry.
Gratuitous.
It was completely gratuitous. There was it's The Walking Dead at its very worst. I mean, at its very. I was trying to, when I was watching it, I was like, why do I like this show again? What have I enjoyed about this show?
I had that feeling.
And I finally came up with like, okay, I really like the moments of like major character development. I liked the world building. I like seeing how they live in the apocalypse. And I don't think I got very little of any of that. There was no character development, certainly.
Zero.
I mean, Negan is just like this walking sadistic monster, god monster. And we already knew that kind of from the finale of the last season.
Right.
And so it was terrible.
It's like, what did this episode present other than the 2 character deaths? And by the way, I'm not even giving a spoiler alert because at this point,
yeah,
you've been spoiled. So I felt the same way. I thought the violence was gratuitous. I didn't need Negan to bash Glenn over the head like 10 times. It was completely. I didn't need to see the guts on the brains on Lucille. I didn't need any of that. And one of the things that I said to Bobby about this episode is that it was so slow. And like, there are slow episodes of The Walking Dead, which I know because I binge them, so you know the memories are recent. But this one just seemed like, why are you wasting an hour and 6 minutes of my time on this very slow, like, not really that interesting except for the moments where we find out who died. Like, it was not good.
It was 20 minutes before...
20 minutes.
20 minutes before, I guess I'll say, the first guy, Abraham, gets killed.
And then Glenn.
Fairly soon after that, Glenn gets killed.
Right.
And I have to say, you know, we all came into this knowing that in the comic books, this is how and where Glenn dies,
right,
anyway. And I had said, I think you tweeted me something about, like, I told you so, and I was absolutely right. I said, not going to be a woman, and it's going to be... No, listen to me.
Hedged your
listen
bet
to me. Okay,
so much.
Maybe I hedged my bet, but I said, it's absolutely not going to be a woman, and I was very glad about that.
Yeah.
And then second of all, it was going to be like a minor male character. I think I actually mentioned Abraham by name.
You did say Abraham.
Okay.
Or
so
Eugene, you said.
I said Abraham,
2.
and then I said, okay, or maybe Eugene.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I am giving a lot of guesses here. And I said, if it has to be a member of the original cast that we care about, I said, then I think it's going to be Glenn because he's the one who dies.
Sure.
And it was Abraham and Glenn.
I just said it was Glenn.
I have to say, when Negan got to the point of saying, well, after Daryl tried to hit him, whatever,
right,
and he's like, okay, well, I gave you one free pass, and you saw Glenn in the background with the bat there, I'm like, okay, he's going to kill Glenn next.
Of course.
So it just wasn't even like exciting, like surprising when he hit Glenn. I was like, okay,
right,
yeah.
Also, but you could figure, so in the episode when you see Rick with the blood on his cheek, well, you figure the person had to be close by. So this is my way of deduction here.
About that.
The person had to be someone, well, also on his right side, because that's the side the blood was on. And in the trailers that they released over the summer, you could sort of hear a voice like make a sort of like moaning or grunting sound, whatever it was. And it was distinctly a male voice. So it would have to be the male closest to Rick on his right side. The only problem with the episode, and I was just feeling too lazy, I didn't look up the photo of like where they were kneeling, because then you would have known it was Abraham. It wasn't that hard to deduce. It just really annoyed me that it took them 20 minutes to get there. After waiting, you guys waited 6 months. I only waited a few months because a month. I just finished season 6. Bobby?
Yeah, okay. Let's see where to begin.
There's so many places to go.
Yeah, I was about maybe 2 minutes away from like out loud saying like, get this over with. Like I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan is very good, but I think that they're giving him way too much space, or at least they did in that episode, to do his whole I'm evil shtick. Mm-hmm. And then the God, I don't even know, the Glenn with the eye popping out was,
but that's from the comic book. Yeah. That's what happens in the comics. His eye pops out in that manner.
Yeah, but that, I mean, you know, there's something that's drawn and there's something that you really have to look at as a human thing. And then we got to talk about the whole thing with Rick being told to cut off Carl's arm.
Okay.
Oh,
That's where I was like, oh man, if this happens like that, then it's really like over the edge. Like,
right.
And
I mean, if he cuts off his arm?
Yeah,
he
didn't.
No. And I was like, oh, if you're two major character deaths, then how many times are they going to maim Carl?
I know, poor little Carl. And you know I can't stand Carl, but I didn't want his arm to get cut off either.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the point where like at that point I was like, we've been through a lot already. Please don't make.
But then, how did you feel when he didn't do it? Did you feel like cheated and like Glenn under the dumpster kind of thing?
No, I felt a little bit of relief.
I agree.
Just because I couldn't have dealt with another major gore scene from a major character that I spent however many years with.
I think the only actually redeeming thing about that episode was that whole was that particular sequence where he basically tells Rick to cut off his son's arm. Okay, what biblical story is this? What biblical story? Was that like a direct reference to?
It's unfair that you come off a high holiday questioning our Bible knowledge.
No, but it's like, which Bible story?
Well, it has to be the Old Testament.
It is the Old Testament, yes.
Do you see how I made that?
Very good.
Thank you.
Is it the King Solomon thing with cutting the baby in half?
Is it Job? I don't know.
No.
It's the only guy I remember.
It is the binding of Isaac. It is when Abraham is told by God is like, I need to test you.
But they killed Abraham.
No. The binding of Isaac. Isaac is Abraham's son. Thank you. Isaac is Abraham's son. And God tells Abraham, okay, you basically got to sacrifice your firstborn son to me. And Abraham's like, oh, geez, okay, I guess I have to. So he takes Isaac up to the mountains. And Isaac's like, dude, where's the sacrifice? We got to sacrifice something. And Abraham's like, God will provide, son. And Isaac's like, okay, do. And so they go up on the mountain. And he actually binds Isaac down. And he is ready to slit Isaac's sword or however he's going to sacrifice him. Mm-hmm. And Isaac is okay with it, just like Carl is like, Dad, just get it over with. Just get it over with. And then God at the last second says, no, you don't have to do that. You approved your loyalty to me. And that's exactly what Negan was doing there. And he was breaking Rick.
He
was breaking Rick. And he is Rick's God now. Wow. That was the point of it. I thought that was, I was like, good.
I do see the correlation between the two stories. Mm-hmm. However, Negan's evil and God's not so much.
I agree, but I mean, coming from Abraham, I mean, that's not a good thing that God is asking him to do, to test his loyalty, to kill his own firstborn son.
Right.
Actually, I don't know his firstborn son, but anyway, his son Isaac, his beloved son Isaac. But I thought that was very interesting, and I was very glad that he didn't actually do it.
Oh, me too.
But it's like he made. I don't want to say this. Can I say that he Negan was making Rick his bitch?
I love how she whispers it as though we could not hear. You are speaking into a microphone, so just say it.
So Vicky. I thought that was a powerful moment, and it changes the dynamic, and it deepens the character for Rick a little bit, that he's broken in a new way he has not been broken before. Of course, we all know how this is going to end, and he is going to kill Negan at some point because he said he was gonna. And so now it's just working up to how he's going to kill Negan. No, this is not coming from the comics.
Oh, okay.
This is not coming from the comics. This is just like he said he's going to kill Negan. He's the star of the show. He's going to kill Negan at some point, just like they killed the governor and they killed everybody else.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up the governor because.
Wait, can I say something?
Yeah.
In post-production for this podcast, Audrey Day's Rise Up needs to play over everything Vicki just said. All right.
Oh my gosh, I love that song. Yeah. So good.
Rise up.
Okay. So I'm glad you brought up the governor. So the governor was a big bad. He was probably the most bad before Negan arrived.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that while he was a terrible, terrible, terrible human being and decapitated poor Herschel,
among his many sins.
There was at least a part of me where I was like, maybe there's 10% of him that's not
you also had an indication, he had his daughter, who turned into a zombie. You got. Maybe we're going to get Negan backstory.
There's no way we're not going to get a Negan backstory.
Yeah. But even if we get a Negan backstory, the brutality in this episode, I just don't know if his backstory can overcome that. He was mean to Dwight. There's something going on with him and Dwight. He maybe if he only hit Glenn 3 times and hit Abraham twice, then maybe. But he bashed their heads in. As I said to, I believe, Bobby, they were dead. Mm-hmm. They weren't undead.
He's making his point. He is becoming their god. I'm not saying I like it or appreciate it, but I can see why he's making his point. Can I tell you a flaw in this whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so he wants these people who he recognizes are valuable people to work for him. Mm-hmm. Okay, and yet he takes Rick and makes him do this little stunt with the hatchet, with the axe.
Yeah.
And it's if Rick is so important to people that he's not going to just go ahead and kill Rick, then why risk Rick to begin with and throw him out amongst all these zombies?
Well, because he knows Rick's going to survive.
Yeah.
It's just
every time Rick was in trouble, he took everybody out with a rifle.
Yeah.
Right.
It was right. Oh, let me save you real quick.
Right, when Rick was hanging from the
oh my God,
hanging
that was
zombie.
so gross. That was so gross.
Well, you knew.
Yeah.
It was just like, what is the point of that? You're just filling out the episode. It just seemed lame.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is that this episode was an hour and 6 minutes, and every 5 minutes there was a commercial break that was longer than the segment before it.
Because I DVR'd it, I fast forwarded.
Oh my gosh. It was maybe a 44-minute episode, but on the TV it was an hour and 6 minutes because of all these gosh darn commercials. And I'm like, so number one, the episode is slow as heck. Then you fill it with all these commercials. Then you have these like stupid dream sequences or like flashbacks or whatever you want to call them, hallucinations that Rick is having. I just thought, as a whole, it was not a good episode.
No,
even with the surprise death of Glenn, I didn't think it was a good episode.
Do you think that people are going to give up the show after this? Or people are still going to watch?
I think if you're in this far, I don't think that makes you give it up. And
right.
And I mean, I think the counterpoint, just being devil's advocate, is with all the violence of him bashing their heads in and everything. I mean, you're watching that show because you have some level of bloodthirst inside of you.
No, I don't.
If you've come all this way and seen all the crazy zombie deaths and all the people dying already, this was more, but did this really cross the line that hasn't already been crossed?
Yes.
I think, to me, I don't have like bloodthirst. I sort of have revenge thirst. It's like when they kill the humans that are really deserving of killing. Like, remember the scene after they escaped Terminus, and then the 3 people survived Terminus, and they got caught up in the church. And it's like that was awesome to me, and I like seeing that because those people deserved it. But it's like all the other kill. I'm just like,
but now don't you look forward to the day that Rick kills Negan or whoever kills Negan?
But I could look forward to that day again. Yeah. I say the same thing. He only needed to hit Glenn 3 times. He only needed to hit Abraham twice. He didn't have to bash their brains in repeatedly. And then we see the blood pool. I didn't really need all that.
Let me ask you this question. I mean, I think they're upping the stakes by making him the baddest of the bad, and he is making a point. He's becoming their god. He is cowing them into submission. It's like, and after Negan dies, then who the hell comes up next? I mean,
but I feel like it's going to take a while.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a while. I don't think it's going to be this season that Negan dies. But I mean, the
show is going to keep going on for a long time. And how do you keep upping the stakes of the evil of these people on the show?
Right.
I mean,
maybe then they go back to some crazy zombie thing, like where there's like 1 million zombies or something.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like one of the things that I've enjoyed so much about the show over the years is watching them, how they survive in the apocalypse. And I would have loved for them to actually be in Alexandria for a little bit longer, without having like a horde of zombies coming their way.
Right, they weren't there that long.
I mean, it's like every single place that they find, everything goes to hell almost immediately. I just want to see them live in the apocalypse.
The only place where things didn't go to hell immediately, I feel like, was when they were on the farm or whatever that was. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, but that was like the slowest of the slow.
That was pretty slow.
Yeah, give me the walkers. That's why I'm watching the show.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see where the rest of the season takes us. They showed the preview, so we know that Rick tells everyone, like, I'm not your leader now. Negan's the leader. They do go back to Alexandria.
Of course, he did that before in the prison, remember? Yep. He was like, I'm going to be farmer now.
Yeah, and he was just...
But that was when they felt safe.
Well, and that was him after Laurie's death and him, like...
Right.
Out on the farm being a crazy person.
Right.
And then he gets over it, and he's going to get over it again. And
of course. And then we move forward. One thing that I did see online that I don't know if you guys noticed is when Abraham was about to get bashed in the brains again, he gave the peace sign to Sasha. Which I thought that was a callback because that's what they've always done. I thought that was sweet. I was really starting to, I'm not good with names. I was really starting to like Abraham, and I actually almost learned his name before this episode. And I'm sort of sad to see
always liked Abraham, although I thought it was a little harsh to break up with your girlfriend in the apocalypse. We didn't talk about one other thing that I thought was very manipulative and gross, which was like the Thanksgiving scene where Abraham and Glenn, I did not like that at all.
That was very CW to me, something they would do on the Vampire Diaries. Yeah. I didn't think it was fitting with The Walking Dead. But so if you had to give this episode a letter grade from A to F,
I give it a D.
Bobby?
Oh, I'll give it a C.
I give it a C-.
Wow, I'm the worst. And I'm the one who's like, I think there's something redeeming about it. I thought it was a D.
Yeah, I give it a C-. So hopefully they will pick it up from here. Let's move on to another show that also needs to pick it up.
And also a sign of the apocalypse.
It must be no other than The Real Housewives of New Jersey, which had its penultimate episode before the finale. Yeah, the finale is the fashion show, which is coming up this Sunday. And don't forget to try to spot Vicki in the crowd. She will be blurred. She'll be eating.
I'll be the large blur in the comfortable shoes. Eggplant rollatini.
Eggplant rollatini.
In the background when Teresa and Kathy apparently get into it.
Vicki will be stuffing her face. If you see it, take a screen grab.
I paid for my ticket.
Tweet us at Remote Podcast, which is our new name because we're now Remote Possibilities. So in this episode, what happened? Not much, right?
Not much. I mean,
yoga.
I was not particularly I think Teresa was a particularly inspiring yoga teacher.
Correct.
But okay, fine.
There was
whatever.
a kitchen reveal.
There was a kitchen reveal. And, I can't tell you how annoyed I am by the whole, Dolores saying, I'm stepping up for myself, when her husband paid for it. This is the last time.
Her
ex-husband
paid for her kitchen
redo.
Remodel.
It's whatever.
This whole season has been about taking women back about 50 or 60 years.
God, I'm sorry.
Do they know they have the right to vote?
I don't think so.
It's insane what's happening.
The only person who knows she's the right to vote is Teresa, who wants to vote for Trump, even though she can't.
I was going to say.
She's on probation.
Right.
You can't vote, Teresa. And by the way, one thing I wanted to mention from an episode or two ago is that Teresa was praying for the Prison Reform Act to go through, which I'm fairly certain Trump being a law and order candidate does not support.
Wow.
But okay.
So many. Just starting a little political. We've
I'm
covered politics and religion today.
I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that she said she's voting for Trump, and I'm just saying that
she said that
Trump,
on the show.
No, she has said it just generally that she wants to vote. That she plans to vote for Trump.
Well, guess what? Plans change because she's not voting. Yeah, sorry, break that news to you. What else did we see on this episode?
Well, the interesting thing that was going on was that at the end, Dolores was telling Siggy that she basically got into a fight off camera with Jacqueline and told Jacqueline to F off.
Right, because Jacqueline said that Dolores was setting her up by making it seem like she didn't want to go to
the yoga event.
The yoga event.
And Siggy. And her name wasn't on the flyer.
And her name wasn't on the flyer. And
she wrote a book too.
And Jacqueline is like, I was sick, that's why I didn't go.
And she was, that was real laryngitis.
Right, yeah. The whole thing is just so trivial.
Yeah.
This season, I cannot wait until it is over. They need some new blood in there.
And maybe Danielle will be back.
Yes.
There's a lot of Danielle stuff going on.
Because we saw a couple of weeks ago, or last week, that Danielle and Teresa did yoga together.
Yes, I wrote about it.
Yes.
The 2016 Yoga Accords. It's true.
Oh my gosh, these two. So who knows? But we need to call our friend Danielle and get the scoop. Mm-hmm. Why haven't we called her?
Basically because I was off a lot and then I couldn't find her number in my phone.
Have you found it?
I have not looked for it since I tried to find it.
Well, then we're
going
to need to DM her on Twitter. Danielle, we know you're listening. Just give Vicki a call, please. We need to discuss. So we're heading into the season finale, which is the fashion show at Envy, and then 2 reunion episodes.
Yes. And then my long national nightmare will be over again.
Goodness, I
5
can't.
months of my life.
Has it been 5 months?
It started in July, I think. July, August, September, October, and then it'll go into November.
They've only had 16 episodes. It hasn't even been that many episodes.
They were
right?
They were a week off for the Olympics.
Yeah, that's right. There were a
long
couple
time.
breaks. Ugh, I can't wait. A show that is not as terrible as Real Housewives of New Jersey. I don't think it's terrible at all, actually. A lot of people dislike it, but I like it a lot. It's Westworld. Now, Vicki and I, before the season premiered, we were able to watch 4 episodes. Mm-hmm. So we've sort of been not watching week to week.
Actually,
have you?
My husband started watching it again, so I've actually caught up again, which is good because I watched all 4 of them kind of at once, and it would be impossible for me to break it down episode by episode if I had done that. Because when did this happen, and everything happens over and over again.
Correct. So then you lose all time and place. Where? Wait, what? Huh?
Yeah. So I did watch episode 3 with my husband last week, and then I watched episode 4 last night.
Okay, Bobby, you're not watching Westworld at all.
I am not.
Because you don't have HBO.
No.
But you have HBO Go.
I do.
I baited you into that. That doesn't make any sense. But you should watch it.
Why aren't you watching it?
It's just been lower on the totem pole. Been a lot of sports.
Do you expect that you'll catch up after the World Series? That's what's going on right now, right?
That is what's going on
And
right
basketball. And hockey.
And football.
And football. Yeah, there are a lot of sports
Were you the one who asked me who was playing in the World Series, and I impressed you by telling you that it was the Chicago Cubs and the Cleveland Browns?
Yes.
The Browns are a football team.
I was like, it's the Chicago Cubs and the Cleveland Browns, Cavaliers,
Native Americans.
Indians.
The Native Americans.
Got it.
Yes. All right. So Westworld season 4, we're up to the point now where Dolores is having these meetings with Jeffrey Wright's character. Is that his name?
Oh my God! I just totally Bernard.
So
Well,
Bernard
she's been
is
having
meeting
him the whole time,
right? But now, like you could see, Bernard is. I don't know what is going on with Bernard. Is Bernard the reason why Dolores is remembering things, or is it due to the programming? That's what I'm still unclear about.
Well, I think they've set it up that Ford has been going in and tinkering with the programming to give them the reveries, to allow them memories. Like if we're talking about like the overarching where Westworld is going, I think I think this was actually brought forth by the events of this episode, is that Ford is trying to give them the divine spark. Like, I think this whole experiment is to see if he can make them human, make them, like, give them a consciousness, give them all this stuff,
right.
which is not something that Delos Corporation wants.
Right.
I think that is where we are going. Now, the theory about, like, whether one of the prevailing theories is that, like, Bernard may be an android as well.
Oh, I haven't heard this.
Yeah, so that is a very strong theory going around, and it's very interesting. The one thing that Ford said this episode that makes you think about that a little bit more is that he tells the head of quality assurance, I can't remember her name, but the one who's having sex with Bernard, Ford sits her down at this sort of Mexican plantation, whatever, and says, I know everything that's going on. I know everything that's going on in the park. I know everything that's going on with the employees. And be careful with Bernard. He's very sensitive. And that was like kind of like a little, is he saying Bernard's an android? Is that part of the experiment?
Right.
Does Bernard know that he's an android? I think it's a very interesting theory. And I like it better than the other prevailing theory.
Which is that Arnold. No,
that's not even my theory.
What is it?
The other theory is about the two timelines.
Oh, right. I have heard
the character played by Jimmy Simpson, of course, I'm blanking on his name right now, the white hat who shows up with his black hat cousin Logan.
Wait, do we think he's Arnold?
No, that we don't think he's Arnold, but that we think he's a younger version of the Ed Harris gunslinger Man in Black category. There's actually two timelines going on. And I first heard about this theory, I think, maybe around the third episode, and I was trying to watch this fourth episode with, could that work? And I think it could work with this fourth episode.
But to be clear, the two timelines would be the present and the future.
No, I think it would be, we argue with this with quantum.
Well, I know we do, but there's a difference, because I would say the present is where the androids are, or where the
I think the present, like what we're watching right now, is where Thandie Newton, whose character is Maeve, is wonderful. The brothel owner, the saloon owner, when she's glitching and she's thinking about all these things again and
Dolores.
again. And Dolores is in both of them. Dolores interacts with Jimmy, and she also interacts with the Man in Black.
True.
And I think the Man in Black, being Ed Harris, is our present, and we're flashing back to Jimmy the White Hat meeting Dolores for the first time, being a white hat, being a good guy 30 years ago.
But Dolores is also glitching in that world.
She is glitching in that world. I don't know. But we did also hear that there was an event that happened like 30 years ago, like some horrible thing that happened.
Right.
And
where's my Arnold theory is what I want to know.
What is your Arnold theory?
Who the heck did Arnold actually die in the park? What does that mean? Also, how does a human die in the park? Because we know that humans can't die in the park.
Well, if a guy has a heart attack in the park, maybe the guy has a heart attack in the park.
That's true. That's true. But it seems
if the guy commits suicide in the park, he could have committed suicide.
That's true.
Sorry, I'm getting very exercised here.
I really like Westworld, and when I listen to other critics or hear what they say, there's like this great divide about how women shouldn't watch Westworld because the women on the show get treated so poorly and they're used as sex objects and they're being raped all the time. And I even said to you, Vicki, that I'm not sure that Dolores was raped by what's his name? James Woods?
No, Ed Harris, the gunslinger, the Man in Black. And actually, I was thinking about that more. And you know what? If you're thinking about he's trying to get to the beginning of the maze, I think that that maybe he was talking, I think it was this episode, about how he wants to get to like the real game where there are real stakes. And maybe when he was dragging Dolores off into the barn and closing the door, maybe he's trying to make Dolores aware of what's going on.
Because did you remember, there was the scene where the other guy, whose name I don't remember because it's not important, dragged Dolores into the barn and she started glitching and she got a flashback of Ed Harris, but he wasn't attacking her in that flashback. Like, he was talking to her. He said something to her that I can't recall right now, but he wasn't attacking her. That's not what we saw in that scene. So I'm thinking
I agree that, like, I think Ed Harris and maybe Ford are working together, not necessarily working together, but I think Ford's aware of Ed Harris because he knows everything that's going on in the park. You know, that they're trying to, you know, bring about this next level, which I think is fascinating.
Right. So for all of you who are not watching because you feel like the women are, you know, being treated poorly, I think that was episode 1, and now they're revealing things slowly each episode that shows there's more than meets the eye. And this reminds me a lot of the same complaints people lodged against Game of Thrones, where they were like, oh, the women on Game of Thrones are all being raped and pillaged and it's all terrible. And now we see, you know, in the last season that the women are the ones who are ruling the kingdom, or at least they should be, and making great decisions there. So I'm going to keep watching Westworld. I really like it.
I think the fourth,
it's fascinating.
I mean, I was a little on the fence for second and third episode, and this past episode really turned it around for me. Both the scene where you really get the feeling like what Ford is doing, especially that wonderful scene at the restaurant where the woman realizes that he made like a flick of a wrist. I don't know what happens. He stops. Anthony Hopkins, Ford stops all the characters from moving. The wine is continuing being poured, and then that horrible like earth mover thing comes over the rise, and that woman's like, holy crap, what's going on here?
Right.
That was wonderful, and I also have to give it up for Thandie Newton's character when the part of the episode where she's starting to have flashbacks.
Right.
She remembers being shot. She sees that picture of basically a technician with the hood on. And she
looks like he's wearing a spacesuit.
Yeah, she draws it. I don't actually know why they have to wear those spacesuits, but anyway, she draws it, and then she wants to hide it, and then she opens it up and sees all those other things.
She's drawn this 10 to 15 times
and that was very powerful. And at the end, when she cuts herself open and they find the bullet, which, you know, like why they would leave a bullet inside of her, I don't know.
Right.
But
why not? She's not real.
I know, but it's like, you know, how many bullets does she have in her at this point? You know, you got to clean it out at some point.
Right.
Anyway, and then she realizes, you know, oh my God, I've been through this before, and there are no stakes. This is happening again and again. She kisses Rodrigo Santoro, and then she gets killed. Presumably, they both get killed, which I just thought was a really great way to end it. And I was just like, I am on board now.
I am so on with the show, and we're wrapping up here. But before we do, I'd like to do a little PSA.
Okay.
For another show that I have mentioned on this podcast before, and I don't think enough of you are watching, and that would be Insecure on HBO. Comes on the same night as Westworld, starring Issa Rae, and it's
great.
It's funny and it's moving and it's true to life for a lot of people, and I just think it's such a great show.
And the characters are flawed, but you don't hate them.
The characters are flawed. You don't hate them. You laugh with them most of the time. I like how there's a lot of through storytelling. So even though it's a comedy, there are things that, you know, I've seen 6 episodes. I think only 4 have aired, 3 or 4 have aired. There are things that happen in the episode 1 that then there's a callback to in like episode 5, and you normally don't see that on a comedy. But I really, really enjoy the show, and I want everyone to watch it. I think it's excellent, and it gets my vote for best new show of the fall. It eclipses This Is Us.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know, everybody knows that Better Things is my favorite new show.
That's true. I like Better Things, but I still think
Better Things I think speaks to me.
True.
You know, as a mother,
because you're not black.
I said as a mother.
Oh, sorry. I misinterpreted.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
That's going to do it for this episode of Remote Possibilities.
Thank you.
Our new podcast name. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Remote Podcast. If you already followed us on the TV Hangover Show account, don't worry, you're still following us. But for all of you new listeners, at Remote Podcast, at E_meds, and at Vicki High, VICKIHY. Bobby, what is your Twitter handle?
At Bobby Olivier.
That's right.
Very creative.
We will be back next week, and hopefully some show will be canceled, because I think it's that time.
It's about time.
It is about time.
Notorious.